everybody, welcome to Teensy Vintage. This is Teresa. Today we are, well, I'm kind of just playing, honestly. I have not sat down and made some art in a bit. I've been working on that really cool vampire themed journal that I made for a friend's birthday, and I had the best time making that, but I really didn't have the spoons to do anything else. Spoons is mental health jargon for energy. So I found this lady. She was on the top of my random cutouts pile, and I don't remember what magazine she came out of. But she was just so sassy in her big red coat, and it said "bye" over her head. So I just was like, you know what? I'm in the mood for this. So I just went ahead and cut her out, and now I'm trying to figure out some colors for a background. And I've decided to use some Distress Oxide inks from Tim Holtz. And I'm also thinking about what kind of stencils I might use in the background. So here are the four colors that I have picked. Let's see, we've got Villainous Potion, Blueprints, and Lucky Clover, I think, is the green one, and Mustard Seed is the yellow one. And I want to use my new Hero Art stencil. It's really interesting. It has lots of curly, wavy, maze-like designs in it. Now, here's the thing. It is super fragile. And I'm like, So I go ahead and pick out purple. And I've got my little ink dauber there. And I've loaded it up with ink. And I realize this stencil is so thin and delicate that really all I can do is kind of, pounce. I can't really get in there and use the stencil in the way that I am used to. And that's okay. So we're going to put that stencil aside and find a different one. I think that Hero Art stencil would be really good with some spray ink. In fact, I think it would be ideal. So we're just going to put it aside for a different project. I found these two stencils instead. The one on the left is from the Crafter's Workshop. The one on the right is from Simon Says Stamp. I just flipped my page over. This is some heavy cardstock that I'm using today. And here we go. Now I can really get in there. The Crafter's Workshop stencils are really sturdy. So I'm just going in with some color. This one is the Villainous Potion. Next is Blueprint Sketch, I think is the name of it. I'll have all of the supplies listed below. And now I'm wiping off a little bit of the purple. I just don't want to get too much purple on my blue ink spreader thingy, sponge. I'm not sure what to call it. So this particular stencil is more of a hand-drawn or a more organic shape than it appears at first glance. And that's great. However, what it means is that I couldn't necessarily match up the stencil on the top with the marks I've already made because they are in fact different shapes. Just slightly, but just enough to where, it's not an exact cutout. And again, that's great. Just didn't realize that until I tried to, stencil over it. Here I am cleaning off a little ink just with some water and a napkin. You don't have to do that part, but I figure I want to keep them kind of clean in the sense of keeping the colors separate. Over the course of making this piece, there's going to be a lot of smudges and a lot of wayward ink, shall we say. And we're all right with that, because you know what? We're not here to be perfect. We are here to make something, to enjoy the act of creating. And I had a great time making this weird piece. So I'm just putting my focal point back on here as a reference, making sure that I'm stenciling, where I want and what I want. There I am trying to wipe off some little bits of the sponge. I need to replace that sponge, I think. It's just too worn out. Now, this is a totally different stencil. This is a little bit thinner. I like Simon Says Stamp stencils. They come in a variety of really cool shapes. They're just a little thinner. This one doesn't seem to want to, fly away the way that original Hero Arts stencil did. So that's good. So I'm just adding some yellow. I'm going over the darker colors I've already done just to add some visual interest. Gonna wipe off a little bit of that ink. All right, making a nice mess here, but that's how you know you're having fun, right? Okay, gonna go back to our blue and put some blue of these, I guess they're waves. Little donuts that are hiding, maybe? I'm not sure. Could be fish scales. I don't know. I think it depends on how you look at it. But yeah, I'm sticking with these 4 colors. They look good against the red. It's kind of primary, but you know what? I don't care. I realize I'm also missing some orange. That's my only rainbow color I'm missing, but that's okay. It's 90% rainbow. I do have to stop myself sometimes from going full rainbow on everything, but, just to make sure that I'm not overwhelming whatever it is I'm making with rainbows, which I know some of you are like, oh my God, more rainbows, please. And yes, in reality, I just kind of pull back a little bit from that inclination just to make sure I'm not making every single thing I make a rainbow. Which, if that's your jam, great, go for it. It's just I do want to maintain some uniqueness, some variety, I guess. And now I'm going to put some yellow waves, I guess, down there at the bottom. Now, you're not really going to see those once the focal point is glued on top, but I just kind of wanted to have something there just in case, I just want to have the ability to move my focal point around and not have any big white space sticking out. Now I'm taking some archival ink and just going around the edges. It just kind of gives the page a little bit of a finished look. And, adding a border to something just gives it a crisp look that leaving it blank doesn't necessarily do. All right, so there's our fashion model lady again. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to add some gesso because this background is so bubbled. I need to mute it just a little bit. I'm going to cut the dried paint ends off of my sponges there. You can use these sponges for a long time. You don't have to throw them out after just one use. In fact, I recommend you don't. Keep using them all the way down to the other end because why not? It's a perfectly good sponge in there. Now I did notice once I started using the gesso with the sponge, the moisture reactivated the distress inks. So they started to smudge. I decided that was fine. Again, not going for perfect, but also just trying to make sure I don't get too smudgy. Because, if you're mixing green and yellow together, it's it can get a little gray or a little muddy. So now making sure that everything is nice and dry. I'm going to dry both sides to try to help this page to not curl as much. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so we're laying the lady out one more time. I think pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to see what else I can find. I feel like she's kind of floating there, and I want to find something that is going to anchor this image. So I get a piece of black cardstock. And I think to myself, I am going to mimic the torn edge at the bottom of her coat on the black cardstock. So I just use my metal ruler. That looks really cool. So now I have two torn edges, and I'm just trying to find a good spot for this. Yeah. So the torn edge mimics the torn edge on the focal point. I'm going to use my pencil just to give myself a tiny mark so I kind of know where things are. Also, I can apply the ArtGlitter Glue directly to my page and then just stick the cardstock down on top of it. Yay! Now, you'll notice, oh, a little bit got stuck. You'll notice it is a little wider than the white paper. That's okay. It's also a little bit lopsided, and that is okay too. There are a lot of mistakes that are going to happen in this piece. And, you know, you can get really upset about it or feel like you failed, or you can just keep going. I'm going to keep going here. So we're going to glue down the lady on top of the black cardstock and our very loud background. And I'm using this wedge from scrapbook.com to just make sure that it is a smooth application. And in fact, I get out my Catalyst wedge because it's a little bit easier to hold in my hand, and I can really direct where I am pulling it, and I'm making sure that I don't have any air bubbles underneath there. So now I am tearing off the excess on the sides. That one, oh, it was such a small amount of paper, it didn't want to tear. So I had to cut it, and to make it look a little rough and ready the way the other side does, I just got out my scissors and I used the blade to rough up that side. Okay, so now we have this lady on our background with a nice piece of black cardstock giving her a grounded look. And now I've got out my Posca paint pens, and I am going around her in black, and this is going to help her stand out even more against the chaos in the background. Now, I did not fussy cut her face and hair. I just kind of went around her a little bit in a saint's halo, mostly because I just didn't have the patience to fussy cut, but also because, you know, I kind of like to give saint halos in my work. If you've seen other pieces I've made, it's just a thing I like to do. But I also just felt like, you know, this lady is such a fabulous diva. You know, she can be our saint of fabulosity. How about that? Just using a little paper here to keep the meat of my hand from smudging anything. I'm just going around the outline of her with some paint pens, making dots. Now I'm going to do a blue layer around her. I know it's like, it's already so loud. You're adding more? I'm like, yes, adding more. Trying to activate that pen. I think it's been sitting a little while, so we're going to shake it. Make sure the ink starts flowing, or the paint rather. It is acrylic. Posca pens are lovely, by the way. They are not the gloppy paint pens we grew up with in the 80s and 90s. These are nice precision pens. I have them in multiple colors. I love them. And the nice thing is they're easy to get now. You used to have to order them online, special, blah, blah, blah. And now Michael's carries them. You can get them at whatever craft store you might be at. They'll have Posca pens. Okay, so now I'm like, do I add another color? And the answer is yes. This time in red. That red matches her coat, and I am pretty excited about that. Now, watch closely. This is where I make a mistake, friends. Yeah. I smudged the paint. So that's me getting a little frustrated. I'm like, you know what? We're just going to go with it. So they're all going to get smudged, intentionally so. It kind of looked like a little bit like flames to me. And I was like, maybe this lady, she is so hot, she's on fire. She's so sassy. Yes, we're going to have extreme diva. So I said, yeah, we're just going to do this. We're going to run with it. Yes, it was a mistake. It was literally a smudge, but we're going to turn that smudge into something fabulous. And here I am. I'm making those lines even bigger. Yeah. There you go. That, my friends, is how you take a mistake and turn it around. Would I have done that intentionally? Probably not. I probably would have just kept going with my nice little dots and would have ended up with a nice little picture. But this is just cool. This just adds some more weirdness and uniqueness to this picture. So now we're going to glue down the bye, or bye, as our favorite drag queens like to say over on RuPaul's Drag Race. Anybody else love RuPaul's Drag Race? Here, let me know in the comments. Yeah, so we've got a nice bye. We are also going to outline the word bye, because why not? And this time we'll do an outline in purple. I know that it's on purple, and so I'm kind of doing it just to make it stand out a little bit, but not too much. So I'm using purple on purple, because why not? Fixing a tiny little spot there that didn't get the paint. Okay, now I'm like, is this done? I don't know. I need something. So I went back and got the other piece of the black cardstock that we used earlier. It was a 12 by 12 inch piece. And I put it underneath, and it was like instantly framing this new piece, and it gave some dimension. So there's literally multiple layers now. And I said, oh, how am I going to stick this on here? And I decided to go ahead and use some grommets. So here I am trying to find some colorful grommets that won't clash too much. I end up finding a green, a purple, a blue, and a yellow. Yay. And I think I ended up going with green for the right side and purple for the left. And here I am trying really hard to get this darn little baggie of backings open. It was a lot harder than it needed to be. Okay, so this next little bit is just me trying to figure out where to put everything. I'm going to punch a hole using my Crop-A-Dile. And then I'm going to put my grommet in there and my backer, and then squish it together with the Crop-A-Dile. Unfortunately, it popped off, so we got to do a take two here. Now, I just want to point out you could attach the background with glue. You could use photo corners. You could use your sewing machine. You could do a lot of things. For some reason, I decided to do it this way. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But I'm kind of into grommets right now. And that little purple grommet up there looks so cool. Okay, so we're going to repeat this process over on the other side on the top. Punch a hole and grab the, I think it's the green grommet. I don't remember, y'all. I'm sorry. And this is out of frame. I apologize for that too. So here I am preloading the crocodile and trying to put it all in there at once. Yeah, it's hard when you're trying to use big pieces of paper and multiple sheets. Anyway, I got it in there. Yay! And I thought about doing two on the bottom as well, but then when I looked at it, it just kind of, I don't know, it was a little too much. And I know you're laughing because you're like, Teresa, this whole piece is too much. It kind of is, but just that wasn't where I wanted to go. In fact, I said, you know what? I'm going to go grab another stencil. Here's one by Paper Rose. They are an Australian company. This one is called Crosses. I've got some very low tack washi. Now you want to make sure if you're ever using original magazine pages that you use the lowest tack washi or masking tape that you have, because that stuff, the magazine will tear. So if you're using a cute, washi on it and you pushed a little too hard, well, it is possible that it'll tear it. So to avoid that, I'm just using this low tack tape. It's called mint tape. You get it from scrapbook.com. It's great for blocking things out and not tearing them when you move the tape. Now, here I am doing some crosses, little X's, little crosses underneath. Yeah, they're kind of sploogey and splashy. They're a mishmash. I'm making sure to dry them very well because I actually use gesso here instead of white paint. I figured it would just be a little gritty and it would be a little more opaque on the black cardstock, and it was. So now I'm using a gold gel pen to go over some of the little crosses because some of them were just kind of mushed, so to speak. And that gel pen dried out. So I luckily had a second gold gel pen. And I am just going over some of the crosses just to give them some definition in a very random fashion. Yeah, that looks cool. So now not only does the grounding element have a texture to it as well, I'm gonna color over her one earring with the gold pen just to give it a tiny bit of sparkle. And get a few more of these marks. And this is pretty much it. I decide this is where I'm very happy. So yeah. Going to put a little orange on the red up by her face. Just to make it look a little more like fire. And I haven't used this particular paint pen yet, so I've got to activate it, and that takes a minute. Woo! It is always fun to activate a paint pen though. So I'm just going over the base here just to add some more flaminess to it. It's got the yellow stencil in the background, and then I figured red and orange, it would be more fire like. And now I'm done. Yay! So I'll stamp it and sign it, and that's it. thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next time.